Good afternoon, everybody. Very nice to see many of you here again. We are now at the sixth conversation on agroecology with the theme of the network of agroecology living labs and research infrastructures, namely what it is and for whom it exists. I'm Taru Sandén and come from the Austrian Agency for Health and Food Safety, 𝐻𝐽𝐻. My colleague from 𝐻𝐽𝐻, 𝐂𝐮𝐫𝐻𝐻, will be handling the technical details today and is available for you in case you have any technical issues during the event. In order to ensure that we have a good quality streaming of the conversation, especially for the speakers, please do keep your microphones muted and camera muted until we come to the discussion and questions. And today we are again in the center of the Agroecology Partnership, the partnership on accelerating farming systems transition, agroecology living labs and research infrastructures. This is a collaborative research and innovation initiative that involves European Commission and 26 member states, associated countries and third countries, with a total of 72 partner organizations. And these conversations on agroecology, these are one of the first steps to enhance agricultural knowledge and innovation system, so-called AKIS, for the agroecological transition. These conversations are there to foster connections between living labs and research infrastructures actors throughout Europe, maybe even beyond. These monthly conversations will continue throughout the 7-year partnership and will therefore then promote engagement and networking among the actors. So please take the chance to also connect to the people after the conversations or between the conversations. Today we have two speakers with us again. We have Korinna Varga from Hungary and 𝐿𝐵𝐵 from Germany, who will introduce you to the network of agroecology living labs and research infrastructures. You will get information on what the network indeed is and for whom it is. So Korinna will give you the details of the network and Esther acts as an example of a member of the network. We will first listen to the individual presentations of Korinna and Esther, and thereafter you will have the possibility to discuss for half an hour together with the speakers. We will be recording the conversation. If anybody has objections to that, please raise your hand now. I don't see any hands, so we are good to go. Thank you very much. And without a further ado, I would then like to move to our first speaker, Korinna. You're welcome. The floor is yours.
Thank you so much, Taru. I'm going to share my screen now. I hope that you can
Yes.
see it.
Yes.
Okay, great. Right. So thank you so much for the introduction. As mentioned, I'm Korinna Varga from the Hungarian Research Institute of Organic Agriculture, and I'm the coordinator of the European Network of Agroecology Living Labs and Research Infrastructures. It's great to be here the second time, because I have to say that so I was also a speaker on the second conversation on agroecology, and this is important to highlight because last time I talked about the European network in general, So I gave you an overview about the objectives and the future activities or planned activities, the benefits of the membership and membership obligations as well, and how to join. So today my focus will be rather on our first application wave, which will be launched this week, and also on the whole application process and the criteria, inclusion criteria into the network. I'd like you to visit the recording of the second conversation in order to gain more knowledge about the network in general, because today I will not have time to talk about that. Right. So, but still, I put here just 2 refresher slides about the network. So regarding the objectives, the main objective of the network is essentially to connect and empower agroecology living labs and research infrastructure, so place-based innovations at various scales across Europe, in order to support multi-stakeholder co-creation and co-design of agroecology innovations. In addition, we also aim to understand how different agroecology living labs and research infrastructures can work together, complement one another, and collaborate in order to achieve the transition. Plus, we aim to improve the access to and the accessibility or availability of agroecology living lab and research infrastructure related knowledge. There are several benefits of the membership. I just want to highlight 2. So first of all, the extensive networking opportunity that the European network can present to its members. Also, the different collaboration opportunities in various international research projects on agroecology, and also in living labs and research infrastructures in general. So essentially to co-design and realize joint research together. Right, about the application itself. So as I mentioned in the beginning, this is an exciting time for us, because we will launch the first application this week. So essentially everything is set. We are just waiting for the materials to be uploaded online on the partnerships website and start the whole communication process. So hopefully tomorrow or the day after, the promotion of the first wave will start. So just to give you an overview about the process, the application will open this week, and if you are interested, meaning that you run either a living lab or a research infrastructure, then you can submit your application through an online form, which will be available through the partnerships website until the end of February. Then comes the evaluation phase, where the different applicants and applications will be assessed by an independent evaluation committee. This will take approximately a month. So the results, we will have the results by the end of next year, March. Then comes the notification stage. So the final evaluation results will be disseminated to the applicants by the network coordinator. This will happen by mid-April next year. And then successful applicants will be onboarded into the network. So they will be officially welcomed and informed about the network activities, future plans, and also how they will be involved in the whole process. This will happen by the end of May. About eligibility. So a couple of things to highlight. First of all, only fully complete application forms will be considered for evaluation, meaning that if we would found, or the evaluation committee would found, incomplete forms will be automatically rejected. Incomplete forms means there are missing answers to required questions, or there are inappropriate contact details or missing contact details in host organizations. Also, only applicants that are in operation for at least 1 to 3 years will be taken into considerations. Those who are just under development will be disregarded. So we are looking for existing agroecology living labs and research infrastructures. And another thing, applicants from all European countries are welcomed to apply, but at this stage, at least in the first and the second wave of applications, we will not consider applications outside Europe. And then the inclusion criteria. So I have to highlight that we have, which is now available on the partnerships website, and I'll give you the link in my last slide. We have an application and criteria guideline document where you can read in detail the whole application process and also the criteria that we use during evaluation. You can see here just the logic of the inclusion criteria, and I have to say that we are looking for applicants that showcase that they contribute to some extent to the agroecology transition and comply with the basic operational principles and approaches of in general living labs and research infrastructure. So as you can see at the base of the pyramid, there are the general living lab and research infrastructure definitions. So developed by, in case of living labs, ENOL, the European Network of Living Labs, and in case of research infrastructures, the European Commission, which was taken from ESFRI. And at the peak of the pyramid, you can see the specific features of agroecology living labs and research infrastructures. So this builds on the general definitions. These specific features have been defined by the already project, and you can find them listed in the criteria guideline. So this is important. If you want to learn more about that, check out the criteria guideline. Then the inclusion criteria takes into account these two different approaches by looking at also indicators within 4 cluster areas, which you can see here. So the values, objectives, governance, and activities. And then we also look at in complexity about the applicant living lab or research infrastructures, and we try to situate them on the level of food in the level of food system change developed by 𝐶𝐿, which you can also see here on the picture. So here you can find the specific features of agroecology living labs and research infrastructures listed. This is the same as in the criteria guideline. I don't have time to go through. Please refer to the guideline. And regarding the cluster areas, so it is important because all the questions in the application form is based on these 4 clustered areas. So essentially, the questions are formulated in a way that we want to learn in detail about the applicant's values, objectives, activities, and governance processes. So we are looking for, in case of values, for instance, how the initiative contributes to agroecology transition through its values that manifests in its activities. Or in case of the objectives, we are interested how the initiative promotes synergies among various ecosystem functions to enhance overall ecological health and productivity, and so on. These are all listed, these kind of indicators in the guideline as well. In case of governance, we are looking for detailed descriptions on the management processes of the initiative, the diversity of stakeholders they involve, how they involve them, and how it supports the applicant supports the co-creation of innovation and knowledge. Or in case of activities, how the real-life setting for experimentations look like, or how the initiative promotes the principles of agroecology across the entire value chain. So this is just examples on how the questions were formulated, but more details you can find in the guideline. So this is my last slide. If you are interested, so if you host a living lab, agroecology living lab, or a research infrastructure, then first, I recommend that you visit the partnership's website, which you can find here, and download the application and criteria guideline. And then you submit your application through the online application form, which will be available through this very same website. And one note that I must highlight, so you have to prepare, I mean, at least I really suggest that you prepare ahead for your application, and for that we created a PDF version of the application form, so you can download every question of the application form ahead, discuss the answers and responses with your living lab stakeholders or research infrastructure stakeholders, and then submit your responses in the application form. So this PDF will be also downloadable from this website. And I tell you this because it's a long application form, and we are looking for detailed answers, and it takes approximately 30 minutes to complete. So embrace yourselves and prepare ahead. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Korinna, for sharing the details of how to apply. We have time for at least one short question. There is already one in the chat. So thank you for the presentation. Do the applicants have to pay a fee for membership cost to be part of the network?
No, the membership is free. In the network, you don't have to pay anything. However, we also don't provide any remuneration. So there are no expert fees. The membership is on a volunteer basis.
Thank you. Do we have another question? Yes. Can stakeholder associations and/or agricultural projects also join the network?
We welcome any type of stakeholders, so let it be non-profit association, consumer association, or farmers association. So there are no restrictions with regards to that. I hope this is what your question referred to. So we are not only looking for research organizations in this case as hosts, but any type of stakeholders. Regarding projects, well, no, we are not looking for agroecological projects. However, if a certain project is focused on a creation of a living lab or an improvement of a living lab, then, or more living labs, then those living labs can apply. But we don't really encourage just a project, so just a consortia to apply, because I mean, in very few cases, these can be actually considered a living lab. So usually projects have a focus to develop or improve a living lab, and those living labs can apply.
Okay, thank you very much, Korinna. Now it starts to be the time to move to our second talk. The second talk will be given by 𝐻𝐵 from Farmers-Led Research Network PF and Hesse from Germany. This is a wonderful example of a living lab that already exists in the network. Esther, you're welcome. The floor is yours.
So now, welcome everybody. Thank you for the nice introduction. I'm 𝐻𝐵. I'm working for 𝐵, the Association of Organic Agriculture in Hessen. This is the organization which represents organic farmers in the German state of Hessen. And I'm the coordinator of the Praxisforschungsnetzwerk Hessen, which is the Farmers-Led Research Network. So, to skip? No? Sorry. there was a delay. Okay, so here's Germany. This is where the state of Hessen is, just in case you don't have that map in your mind. And what you see here is kind of an organigram that is the structure of our signal living labs. As the network consists of actually 4 living labs, I will just give you the details of how the structure of each living lab is. So our process always starts with the farmers. So we do needs assessment with our organic farmers and ask them for their problems and their research ideas. We cluster the answers, and when we found a group that is interested in a similar topic, we do group meetings with advisory service. And when we found out like a common topic a group of farmers is interested in, we're searching for an appropriate research institution in order to co-create a project and apply for funding. So this is what 𝐸L does, like facilitating this overall process and also representing the network to other networks for public relation and also for the knowledge transfer. So today, I will introduce the Living Lab Arable Farming to you. So this group consists of Naturland, which is also an organic association, so advisory service of them, the LLH, which is a state-run agricultural advisory service of Hessen, and also the University of Kassel. They also have a research farm close by, which is Domäne Frankenhausen. You see the green spots here. These are our farms all over Hessen. And the green spots are the farms with field trials. But in our living lab, we also have farmers that don't have own field trials, but they are discussing with us the project and also interpreting the findings at the end. So we do have at least 4 meetings a year per group. So the project this living lab came up with is they wanted to investigate the effects of different termination strategies on nitrogen release from cover crops. So our research question was, how can we improve the nitrogen transfer with cover crops? Because our farmers said, sometimes we have like the cover crops emerged well, the development was fine, but somehow we cannot see the difference in the following crop then. So therefore, we wanted to find out which termination strategy is most suitable in order to transfer the nitrogen into the first following crop. And sometimes if you can't see an effect in the first following crop, it might be visible in the second following crop. So therefore, our research design also includes the second following crop. So we tested frost-killed cover crop mixtures and also winter hardy ones, and had different treatments in this variant. So one is a plow. So the treatment was with a plow from January 15th on. It is allowed to plow. And then we have one with a ridger. I will explain in the next slide what a ridger is in case you ask yourself this question now. This you have to apply before frost. And then with the winter hardy cover crops, we also had the ridger variant and a shallow soil treatment in spring and a deep one in spring. Overall, we wanted to find out what about the nitrogen losses? Are there gaseous emissions? Is there leaching? Or can we find everything in the yield at the end from the first following crop or from the second following crop? So a ridger is this machine. You see, it works quite shallow. So the working depth is only 15 centimeters. So you see a lot of bare soil, but actually it is just hilling the soil, and the cover crop is somehow buried alive. So only 30% of the area is tilled compared to a usual plow. In that way, we try that the cover crop degradation under the soil is slowed down, and the nitrogen release is in the phase where the crop can use it. So let's have a closer look into the soil now. Here you have the mineral N contents of 8 different farms here, in different soil depths. So the data is from February 2023 after ridging and shortly after plowing. So this is the brownish bars indicate the terminated ones. So the ridger and the plower, sorry, and the one which are not terminated yet are the greenish ones. So what you can see here, for sure, the non-terminated variants, the N mineral compared to the analysis before has not much changed. But for sure, the additional N increase is seen in the terminated variants. But what is interesting is that in the upper 30 centimeters, the difference is not so high, but you see a much bigger difference in the deeper layers, which is also already an indication for possible leaching. So, and the highest variant is the one where we had the ridger and the frost-killed cover crop, but it still remains similar to the plow. So what does it mean for the yield now? Let's have a look. Here we have the grain yield of the following spring crops. You have the sowing dates of the different spring crops here from the 8 farms again. And here you also see the soil composition, and the reddish number stands for sand. So the red bars again indicate the plow and the ridger, and the yellow ones the spring termination. Our preliminary findings here were that you see in plow and in the ridger are higher yields mainly, and partially also statistically secure. But if you see these two, so in the at the farms with the sandier soils here, there were no or very low yield differences. So what does this mean for overall findings? We see that the termination before or in winter with plow or ridger with respect to grain yield of the following crop is advantage on most sides. But on farms with sandy soils, there's no clear yield difference. And we could also argue that the winter hardy cover crop and the spring termination could be a recommendable variant or treatment for groundwater conserving practice. The only problem with this variant is also that there was higher weed pressure. And also the data I showed you now, this doesn't say anything about the N losses via leaching and the gases emission, which likely occur over winter. That is why we also want to investigate in this project the N losses in the single variants. And then we asked ourselves, can ridging instead of plowing reduce these losses without lowering the following crop grain yield? Because for the farmers, for sure, the grain yield is the most important factor. Important factor. One problem with the ridging is that the field accessibility in November is not always given. So therefore, we should also investigate the effects of a later termination with a ridger. But this we haven't done yet. And then, and also what I said, what we want to find out is if it is possible that the nitrogen preserved over winter only becomes effective in the second following crop. So therefore, we're waiting for this grain yields of the second following crop. We haven't analyzed yet. and or I have the data, not yet, and also the 2 trial years of Domain of Frankenhausen, because there we could also include like the leachate analysis, and also we could measure nitrous oxide. And what we've done is labeling with 15N to find out all the paths the nitrogen goes to. And also we're looking for the soil organic matter content, because we really want to find out what are the passes of nitrogen, and where does it go if we can't find it in the yield. So I hope I could give you a short overview of what we're doing at PFN Hessen, and I'm here for your questions. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Esther. We have time for 1 or 2 short questions before we start with the discussion for both speakers. Carla, would you like to take one of our questions?
Yes, thank you. Good afternoon. I have a couple of questions for Korinna. The first one.
Could you start with a question to Esther?
To Esther, yes.
Yeah.
Okay. So thank you for your presentation. It was this kind of working is very important for the farmers. Also for the Portuguese farmers are very, very important. And because you have some regulations now that for the farmers to include the cover crops, and they are widely acknowledged for their benefits, and not only in enhancing soil health, but also as a valuable predecessor to main crops, as you already assessed. However, mostly here in Portugal, their adoption presents several technical challenges for the farmers, including an increased incidence in weeds. What termination strategy proves the most effective in reducing the weed pressure? What you obtain with your results about that?
Yeah. What is very interesting about our findings is that each farm is so different, because in research often a trial is done only on a research farm, and then we try to take these findings and bring them to I don't know, whole agriculture. But I cannot clearly answer this question, because in each farm, like the weed pressure is different. The weed species are different. The only thing which I can clearly tell is that this spring termination strategy, which was very shallow, for sure there the weed pressure was highest. But in the other farms, whether they have a lot of thistles or not, and also it depends also on how the emerging of the cover crop was, and how the development also, because as more close it is, as less spaces for the weeds. So yeah, there is not yet a clear answer to this, but I hope that we also have can at the end of the project state something to these findings we have.
Thank you, Esther.
Okay.
Thank you, Carla. We can then start to move to our discussion part. So we still have 2 questions that have come to Esther, but thereafter we can open the questions for both speakers. So if you have a particular question to Korinna, I think we have one from Erika that is to Korinna as well. Now is the time to ask those. Me and Carla will be moderating. I have the two questions, first from Erika Angarita and then from Alfred Maar, and then the word will go to Carla. You can just simply raise your hand for your question, or you can write it in the chat. Both are fine. Erika,
Yeah,
please go ahead.
thank you so much. Yeah, actually, I have two questions still for Esther. One is what type of level of participation, what type of participation and what type of level of participation do they have with the farmers in these living labs? I mean, if they're also intervening like the design of the machinery, putting the fields for the trials and so on. And the second is what is the main inputs or lessons or impressions of the farmers about these living labs? Thank you.
Yeah. So as I indicated, we have by now 4 living labs, and we more or less tried to run the same overall process. But in each living lab, the dynamics are so different. Because, yeah, social factors have a huge impact. For example, in this arable farming group, I really have the feeling that there's so much drive from the farmers, as we see ourselves also as a farmers-led research network. That means in many living labs, we have the feeling that the research institutions have there's a disbalance in the power the research institution has. And this is why the coordination in our living lab is at the Farmers Association. And we also start the process from the farmers. And that way, we really try to have one of the highest participative levels. We could bring in into this overall process. Does this answer the question, or?
Yeah,
And there was
thank you. Yeah, this is also a little bit related with the second. That was what is the impression of the farmers about these living labs, and what do you hear about them, and yeah, if they're happy or the people are moving out of these living labs, and how do you handle that from the coordination part?
For example, in this living lab, we already thinking of a second project in this group, because this project will end with 25, so autumn 25, and then they came up with new ideas and just already thinking of how can we continue the process of working together and how can we build up on this. So I think, if they wouldn't be satisfied with this happen, the farmers wouldn't. I mean, now they know what's coming. So I think they wouldn't join in the second one in this group. But for sure, it depends very much also on the research infrastructures that are involved. We have the feeling when they are able to really go to the farmers and also learn, and I want to learn from them, then there's a really nice interaction. If this doesn't really happen, we can try to help and influence this a little bit as coordination, but for sure, it is somehow also like, if they really activate each other all together and see that, hey, we can really change something. If you find this in a group, I think then it will work. And also we have an annual meeting where we bring all 4 groups together, that they also can exchange on what they're working. And I can just say, I really like this. And the groups, the farmers, presenting their projects by themselves to the others. So therefore, they speak for their own projects. And I think this is also a very important thing, that not others speak about them, but they really get the stage and they present what they're doing. Yeah.
Thank you. Great.
I think in the chat we have a question from Alfred Maar. How high was the level of nitrogen in total fertilization in one cultivation period?
Oh, yeah, that's a good question. Each farm can be seen as an individual trial, because each farm had like 4 replications and at least 5 variants. So I think we have to answer this for each farm. And I mean, for sure, in organic agriculture, this is rather low. So as you already seen this nitrogen levels, even though the bars were quite deep in comparison to conventional agriculture, the overall nitrogen level was still rather low, as we really work on this water conservation and also to try to diminish leaching as much as possible. Yeah.
Thank you. We have also seen a couple of questions for Korinna in the chat. Maybe summarize them together. First of all, there was a question whether a living lab that is applying to be in the network need to have a previous certification of being an official living lab, from Erika. And then from Sylvain Denat, is the same jury going to assess the living labs and the research infrastructure?
Yeah, so starting with Erika's, so no, you don't have to have an extra certification for your living lab. So globally, the ENOL, the European Network of Living Labs, does official certification or accreditation of living labs. Of course, it's an advantage if you have that certification, because that means that your living lab at least complies with the general principles of a living lab, but you don't have to have this certification to apply and to get into the network. And I'm also now answering to your first question. So you also don't, so if you don't call yourself a living lab per se, so for example, you just an open innovation initiative, or you have another word for that, that's also fine. So you only have to demonstrate that you apply the operational principles of an agroecology living lab or an agroecology research infrastructure. That's why the detailed answers for the questions that we have in the application questionnaire is so important, because that's also helpful for us to assess how you comply with these certain features. So no, you don't have to call yourself a living lab. Also, answering to Sylvain's question, no, it's not the same jury. So we will have yearly application waves, and each application wave has a new evaluation committee. So not the same jurors at all every time. And before every application wave, we launch a call for evaluators, which we try to spread through the whole agroecology community and research community, looking for experts in agroecology and also in agroecology living labs and on research infrastructures. And every time we select new evaluators.
Thank you. Carla, would you like to take the next question?
I mean, I still see some questions in the chat.
Yes.
Yes.
Right. So
we have a question from Thorsten, and that is about the dimension of the network. How many partners, how many did you think to have in the network?
Yeah, I always get this question. Thank you, Thorsten. Still can't give you an exact number or size. So we are looking for quality rather than quantity in case of our network. So we don't have a set KPI that we should have 100 or 150 living labs by 2031 by the end of the partnership. What what we can do is certainly kind of project the numbers, but we will do this after the second wave of applications. After that, we more or less will see how applications are or how many applications we will have, and also the results of the selection process. So I honestly can't give you a number. 2 years ago there was also a preliminary survey conducted on rather mapping agroecology, living labs, research infrastructures, and similar initiatives across Europe. Also done by the already project by INRAE, and from those candidates, we saw that we have an interest rate above 80 initiatives. That was 2 years ago. This number might be higher. So we'll see.
And the community-supported agriculture and other similar initiatives can apply to the 𝐶𝐽?
If they operate a living lab, so they comply with the features, the principles, of course they can. However, in many cases, these are individual farms.
Wow.
I don't know how it is in other countries, but definitely in Hungary, in my country, these are individual farms. And if they operate alone, they certainly can't apply. I mean, they can apply, but in this case they would not comply with the principles, because in order to call yourself a living lab or to consider yourself a living lab, you have to work with and engage various types of stakeholders across the value chain. So not only just an individual farm. In many cases, individual farms, they are the sites for real life experimentation in case of living labs. So if you host, so if you are a community supported agriculture farm and you host a living lab, so you work with different kinds of stakeholders to conduct research and innovation, of course you can apply.
And the other question is related to the organic and the conventional agriculture, and the question is, what is the political position about that?
Yeah, political position. Our focus is to find agroecology living labs and research infrastructures, and not conventional living labs or research infrastructures, but it's rather true for living labs. Again, this is why we put together the questionnaire in order to select the ones who actually apply agroecology principles and the general approaches of living labs and research infrastructures. And I'm confident that our form is strong enough to select or cherry pick or rule out conventional initiatives.
And the regenerative farming also, the concept included the regenerative farming.
Yeah, regenerative principles are also there, but if applicable also to regenerative farming. So the principles are there for sure, but the same applies as I mentioned before. So perhaps you're also aware that regenerative farming can be done in a conventional manner, and it can be done applying sustainable practices and agroecology principles. We are looking for the ones that are applying agroecology. So combine the regenerative and agroecology principles.
I have one question. Can the internal partners of the partnership also apply, or that is exclusively for external partners?
No. Also internal beneficiaries of the partnership can also apply if they host a living lab or a research infrastructure.
Mm-hmm.
We have still a new question from Erika in the chat. Once it is in the network, are you, the network, considering a monitoring and evaluation plan for the living labs during time? If yes, who will be conducting it?
Yeah. Yes, we have a plan for that. For now, we have a two-level approach for monitoring and evaluation. We would like to monitor and evaluate living labs and research infrastructures on an individual level. So in this case, it means that the living labs and research infrastructures themselves have to conduct a kind of a self-evaluation, of course, based on a protocol or a guideline that will be co-created together within the network. And the second level is the network level. So we will do a monitoring and evaluation for the network as a whole, also in how it contributes to agroecology transition. For that, we have a certain institution, Wageningen, who's responsible for that.
Thank you very much. Carla, do you have more questions on stock? I think Gerald is raising his hand. You're welcome to ask.
Yeah, thanks a lot for the two presentations. I have a question for Esther, actually. Thanks for introducing that example. I think it's a really interesting example because you put the user-centered principle really at the core of your activities with the farmer perspective and the farmer-driven management and focus of the living lab there. I just have a question in relation then how you see the role of research within your living lab. You mentioned, I think at the beginning of your presentation, that once in a way you identified together with the farmers the issues and the questions that need to be solved, you are looking basically for suitable research organizations or research partners that could support you and the farmers in conducting research and providing solutions that could be implemented. So how do I understand then the role of research within your living lab? Is research a kind of permanent, are specific research organizations permanent members, or is the research organizations, is that changing in the way they are getting involved in the living labs? So what's the role? Is that a supporting role? Is that a core member role? Just to understand that a little bit more, maybe. Thanks,
Thank you for your question. At the very beginning of the process, there, I would say farmers have a stronger lead. But as soon as a project is co-created, it shall be equal of. It is not that, and the co-created new projects which where we apply for, there the research institutions receive the funding. So in that way, they somehow, I would say they are equal off in the project then, but just only at the very beginning, we start like the topic, to find the topic or the overall topic with the farmers, yes.
Okay.
And that's why I would say we don't have a fixed research infrastructure in the network, but we're just, for example, when we have pig husbandry farmers, and we're looking for a topic about feeding pigs properly. So I think if we would have only one research infrastructure, we cannot assure that they can work on this topic. So therefore, then we start asking, like, who could be the one being part? So this is why we don't have them like steadily in a group from the beginning on, because it might be that the farmers come up with something a certain research infrastructure cannot work on.
Okay,
Yes.
yeah, thanks, Esther. Sounds good. Yeah, really. Yeah, interesting.
And as we work in Hesse, we try to focus on the universities which are in Hesse, because luckily we have 3 universities working in the field of organic agriculture. So I think this is quite rare, this amount of universities. But also, for example, with our pig group, we also have the 𝐶𝐮 Institute with it, because they work on organic pig feeding and they are experts in this. So yeah, we also want to learn from them.
Thanks, Esther.
Thank you. We are slowly coming to the last question. I can see one question in the chat. It's also to Esther. Do you include evaluation along the supply chain, for example, food producers, in particular barley in beer brewing, wheat in bakery?
No, we don't do this yet. So we know that we're still focused on primary production, and that are the topics the farmers come up with. For sure, when we want to continue in the line of living labs setup, we should also try to think of more how to open this for the supply chain. So we are in contact with others that want to set up like this Hessen kind of living lab, where also more supply chains are included. But as you may have seen in our trial, there were some that had barley, but there were also some that had oat and wheat and cress in the trial. This is why that was our first group that started, and we really try to focus on one topic first in order not to lose track on the way. But it is totally clear to us that there are way more paths we could go, also to include social science or whatever. There are many doors we can still open. As soon the living lab is running and we have a steady base. Yes.
Yeah, thank you. I guess that's also the beauty of it, that when time goes, you can also develop into different kind of directions. Carla, just a short question. Is there a burning question at your end, or have we taken all the most important questions?
Yes, I think almost is already answered. Only the economical accounting for Esther, if the farmers are in line with the impact of these changements in the accounts of in the economical point of view.
Okay. Just to ask if I get you right. So, do you mean the economically point of view that they conduct trials on their farm, or that they apply cover crops as such?
The 2 aspects for us are important. The trials sometimes have a cost, and the farmers should have discussed in the trials. Is one aspect, and the other is the changement with cover crops. How is the impact in the accounts of the farmers? If you have in line these 2 aspects.
Okay, I try to answer shortly. So, all our farmers applied cover crops before we did the trials, so they were already convinced in using cover crops for their soil health and also for the following crops. To quantify this is quite difficult because there are so many different aspects which has to be reconsidered. But also on a society, considering the society, we should also ask, like, about the costs of purifying drinking water again, and how much does this cost the society. So therefore, I think it shouldn't be the question whether to use cover crops just to get a little bit of higher yield, probably, but also to conserve our water. I think this might be probably the more important question on that point. And on the other thing is, farmers are experts in our network. That means we pay them for everything they do.
Oh.
So they are the organic farmers in our networks. They do so much voluntarily, and they are so, how to say, on fire on their beliefs. But I think if we want to have an expert network, we have to, pay them also as experts. For sure, it could be higher. In my opinion, we could even pay them more, because it is still, compared to other salaries of others, it is still low. But I think the work they do on their fields, they get paid for, and also the meetings. They come because they bring the knowledge of practical farming in our network. So we should, honor this, I think.
I think this is a very good note to the end. Is a question that is very often discussed, how farmers are being paid for their contribution. I'm very happy to see that Esther is bringing a very practical example where the farmers are actually getting paid for their work.
Yeah.
It's been a wonderful discussion. Thank you very much. I'm very sorry that I now have to cut it, because we've come to 2 o'clock and to the end of our conversation. Thank you very much, both Korinna and Esther, for your presentations and being open for all the questions. And for the audience, of course, please feel free to contact Korinna and Esther also afterwards if there are still some questions that you haven't got an answer to. This 6th conversation is our last for this year, but it's not the end. We will continue again in January. So we will have 10 new exciting themes for you next year. And the next conversation will take place on the 29th of January, again at 1 o'clock. Once more, thanks a lot for our speakers from the task group for giving the ideas and thoughts for organization of the conversation, and for Katrin also for the technical support that we are having today. If you have ideas, themes, speakers that you would like to suggest for coming conversations, please feel free to contact us. We would be happy to hear from you, and we would very much like to wish you a wonderful holiday season. Take good care of yourselves, and wish you a good rest also before the next year. Thank you very much for today.
Thank you. Goodbye.
Thank you.
Goodbye.
Bye.
Thank you. Goodbye.